What a time to be alive.
I think you're trying too hard to talk on this overlay.
Compete.
You know, the off season is all about mile markers, right? We've, go through the draft, you get through the OTAs, you get through the mini camp, get a few press conferences in here and there. Well, the unpadded portion of practices is complete now. Pads start Friday, but we still have some takeaways. Let's talk about them.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory, presented by Emprise Bank. Member FDIC, our partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network, an absolutely tremendous company. Any banking needs that you might have, go talk to them. They do a lot of great stuff. I think they specialize in some small business SBA loans. So go check them out. I promise you won't regret speaking with them if you have any needs whatsoever. Maddie, I'm very curious. Are you drinking tea right now?
I am. I have a nice little mug of some tea. Throat was a little sore after the weekend. It was carrying into the middle of the week. So I went ahead and got some tea going. Did I add a splash of, I don't know, let's say some flavoring to it? Sure. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. You'll never know.
Oh, I have a feeling I know what kind of kind of flavoring. I've been I don't know, you're getting to the essential oils, Matthew. Have you been through the essential oils before?
No, I'm young, buddy. I got like 22 more years till I get there.
That's true. So I have been drinking water with like mint essential oils in them. Through that, little honey in there and some hot water. I am that's kind of been my remedy here as I'm trying to, I've got a little cough still going, all that kind of stuff, but that's kind of been my choice.
You've never sounded older in my entire life.
Oh, I don't even care. You've been 28 for 7 years now.
I turned 28 last year, buddy.
Okay, sure. People are genuinely starting to believe that, by the way.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. You don't look 28.
Let's start the show.
Okay. Anyways, thank you all so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate you just coming to hang out. So we're sitting here. Today was the last day of the unpadded ramp-up period for training camp. We're going to get to see some pads on these guys starting Friday. But there's been a lot of little nuggets, little stories that have, kind of happened even since we last talked on Monday. We can kind of start with this a little bit. Nazeeh Johnson and Justin Watson both leave practice early today. You never want to see injuries happen. Nazeeh Johnson with the knee that he tore his ACL on, which is not great. Reports early on have been that it is precautionary. And then Justin Watson kind of gets his knee twisted up in a 7-on-7 period, and that did not look good. He did leave in the front of the cart, which is always a good sign. But, a couple little injuries here, a few little starting to pile up here. Actually, honestly, when you think about it, because of some of these guys on the PUP list, because of, some of these little injuries happening here, like there's a few players that this team's missing here, Matthew.
I think we should change this time of year to cart season. I feel like people are really excited to tweet out where players leave on the cart. Like, not excited that anybody gets hurt. It's just like, people make a big deal about where somebody rides off in the cart. And I just, let's just wait until the reports come out to say what's wrong before trying to speculate on front cart, back cart, left cart, walking, rolled up the hill, whatever it may be. Let's just let them come out and tell us what's wrong. That said, yeah, not great. These two injuries. Like, we actually ended up having a question here, and I'll just roll this into this Justin Watson one. Could the Chiefs keep 7 wide receivers by putting 2 of them on special teams? I do think the final 2 wide receivers, whatever number it is, 6, 7, 5, 6, are going to be mostly for special teams or will play some version of special teams. That's what makes the Justin Watson injury a little, I guess, like worth monitoring closely going forward, is if he is out of the equation, I think you have a really hard time getting to 7. That makes sense. right? Like you get to 7 because you want to keep some young guys and you keep Justin Watson for his special teams value and the fact that he's kind of like a veteran around the wide receiver room. If he's unable to play, if he's out for an extended period of time, or he's going to the, physically unable to perform list, if he's going to end up on the IR, I think it's a little bit harder to see a path to 7. So like, I think you just kind of got to monitor his injury. Not that you're expecting Justin Watson to start, but like if you want to find an X wide receiver on this team, you get to Justin Watson's name and that's about it.
Well, we just got done talking yesterday or Monday about how wide receiver 4 is Justin Watson. It's a lock in. He's the one that's the most consistent of all these other guys that are kind of out here just trying to fight for an opportunity and trying to, show enough consistency to earn a roster spot. I think Justin Watson as a wide receiver 4 reliable player, but also just has some special teams value here too. And so seeing him out of the mix does definitely throw a wrench in some things. I'm with you. I don't think this is a Chiefs keep 7 wide receiver type season personally. Just because I think, Justin Ross, an exception was made for a essentially non-special teams player. Just trying to keep talent on the roster is essentially what they tried to do last year. If Justin Watson misses any time, this whole thing's in flux, man. Like I think I can find 6 that I like, or I think I can find the 6 that I think the Chiefs would keep. How about that? That's a better way of putting it. But yeah, I don't think they're going to keep 7 because I don't think there's any, I don't think this is a year where you're just keeping Justin Ross. You gave him a year to figure it out and try to figure out what he has. I think he's got to make it, as wide receiver 6 on his merits if he's going to do it.
Did we get any updates on Justin Watson's injury post like practice, like anything that comes out? I did know that there was a round of reporting that Najee Johnson's was kind of more
precautionary.
Just like, hey, we're gonna take this a little easy. It's the same knee that he hurt last year. It's a little bit of discomfort. We're just gonna take it easy. He's gonna get a little head start on the day off, right? Like we got news on his, but we didn't get anything for Watson, right?
Well, Tucker D. Franklin's gonna jump here and tell us.
It's an ankle.
Okay,
it's an ankle
injury.
Does he have 1 or 2 ankles?
He has 1 ankle. I believe it is also left ankle. I tweeted at the clip from my personal account at Tucker D. Franklin. You can watch him kind of fold up on his
It looked nasty.
ankle. Yeah, it wasn't great, but it is a lower leg ankle injury that he's being evaluated for.
Okay, but we didn't hear anything.
Not the severity.
That, right?
No, you don't know the severity of it or anything, but you just know that they're just looking at the ankle and that portion.
Tucker D. Franklin here producing behind the scenes. Tucker, how did it look like walking off, being tended to? Like, how much was he able to walk off the field with all of it? Like, what did it look like?
So he
on your stethoscope before you answer this question, please.
Right. Yes. So he didn't. So there's 2 fields, right, in training camp, and this happened on the far field, the furthest tent away from the medical tent. And he was helped to the sideline, didn't put a whole lot of weight on it, but then from that field where there was nobody on that he was walking just directly into the medical tent, he was able to walk on it. I actually believe it's foot. I just looked it back up. It's they're calling it just foot injury. So he was able to walk on it from basically a field's width away to the medical tent. So he was helped to the sideline, walked to the tent, and then he was in the cart and took him up. But I don't think looks like one of those things where his cleat kind of got caught funny and he got folded up. He folded himself up kind of weird on his leg, but I didn't anticipate by the looks of it and him also walking all the way to the tent on it. I don't anticipate it to be a largely severe injury. Who knows though? Kobe shot a free throw on a torn Achilles. So not actually comparing the 2. Wow. That was, I just compared Justin Watson and Kobe Bryant together.
I don't know why we needed to go there, but we did. That was Tucker D. Franklin, producer extraordinaire, also St. Joseph resident, and someone that is doing tremendous work getting all kinds of clips of training camp for KC Sports Network. Go find those clips when you follow our social media. You can go find those. We have clips of the full team practices. So as the pads are coming on, it's going to be a lot of fun to be watching those clips. I actually had one more thing I wanted to tell you guys about that's going on with KC Sports Network. So we have something really fun and exciting that's happening on Sunday. We are going to be having a tailgate at Kauffman Stadium. It is in partnership with the Negro Leagues Museum. I It's for the Cubs-Royals game. Tucker, do you have the graphic for that? Thank you. Anyway, so it starts at 10:30. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be food donated by, I believe, Batchelor Family Farms. Holiday Distillery is going to be around there. It's all kinds of fun. It's the Kings of KC tailgate. Starts at 10:30, and the game starts at 1:10. So get out there early. It's going to be some free food, some drinks, stories. I believe Bob Kendrick's going to be out there, which, like, come on, that's an absolute treat. No tickets are required. Just walk in. Just come hang out with us. The first 50 people that get there are getting a specialty T-shirt, paying homage to the Monarchs. It's a co-branded effort with Negro Leagues Museum and with KC Sports Network. So go check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you're going to the K on Sunday, come hang out with that.
I will say this too before you fully move on. Link to buy the shirt that you can see. If you're watching the video, you can see the shirt, co-branded shirt with the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. That font is, and that word mark is the original 1924 Monarchs script font that they had in their uniforms when they won the 1924 World Series, Negro League World Series. You can buy the link. The link's going to be in the description, and the link will also be in the live chat as well if you want to pre-order one of those shirts.
Awesome.
I love how you set Tucker up here. You asked him a question. You asked him to explain everything about Justin Watson, and then you immediately transitioned into your ad read that needed him to put an overlay up. So, like, you had him talking, you had him thinking, and you were immediately like, "Hey, Tuck, where the heck's my overlay? Chop, chop!" Like,
I also didn't have it ready. That was also my fault that I didn't have it uploaded.
And Tucker, before the show started, I just have a question. Did you tell me that you had an overlay ready?
Oh yeah, I did say that.
Okay.
I did, and it wasn't ready. Yeah,
I
figured it would be ready by the time you needed it. It wasn't. That's my fault. That one's on
Here
me.
it comes. Hey,
set him up so bad. Yeah. So anyway, Justin Watson's injury got worth monitoring. Nazeeh Johnson's, I think we have to just hope that the precautionary, word coming out is true. You don't want to see him get injured because, Nazeeh Johnson goes down while Jalen Watson's still unavailable, and that competition that they've been really excited about all of a sudden gets real slim with one guy who
it's Joshua Williams.
It's Joshua Williams versus Joshua Williams. And as he'll tell you, it's his good flashy plays versus not as good, less flashy plays because he struggles with this consistency, right? So, like, I think
did you talk about that on Monday, by the way?
We've been talking about that for like a year now. Okay. Listen, Joshua Williams, his answer to that exact question about, what steps he needs to take, I'm pretty sure he verbatim said what I said. He didn't even credit. This is getting out of hand now.
Joshua Williams plagiarized his Joshua Williams take. Is that what you're saying?
That's my new stance. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, it is thinning out a little bit. Jalen Watson's absence, Nazeeh Johnson, who got reps as the starter early in practice today too. That was the other thing that was a little, interesting is he was getting looks at, getting, first team starter reps today. And so him having that happen is just kind of a disappointment too for him. I know they're saying it's precautionary, but you want to see him playing, in as much as he possibly can, showing that he's kind of moved out past that injury, and that happening is a little bit disappointing. So hopefully good things for both Watson and Nazeeh. We'll see what happens there. So I guess the question kind of lingers. We're talking about this cornerback competition, and Jalen Watson's been injured, and he played through injury last year. Joshua Williams, up and down inconsistencies. Nazeeh Johnson, hey, look, same thing with the injuries that we've seen recently too, right? So I guess the question is, do we think we're getting close to a time where the Chiefs should consider trying to sign a veteran cornerback at this point? Like, is this where we're starting to head? I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Maddie?
Yes. If Nazeeh Johnson, okay, no, I take it back. Yes. I think they should, no matter what. Whether it's just Nazeeh Johnson or Jalen Watson, if either one of them end up scheduled to miss any amount of time, I think they should kind of be all over that. I don't think personally, as an outsider, right, without getting to see what Kelvin Joseph looks like, without getting to see Keith Taylor, without getting to see what Nick Jones has developed as Echo Boydo, if I'm just going based on what we've seen from these guys, like, yeah, if you were going to have a Nazeeh Johnson or Jalen Watson this time, and I'm putting a big if on both of those because neither of that is not confirmed for either one of those guys. But if they're going to miss time, then yeah, I would love to bring in a veteran that you know is going to provide some level of consistent NFL play because they have done so far. You lose L'Jarius Sneed, you're looking like you're moving Trent McDuffie to a new position full-time. Not that he hasn't played outside, but it's different. You're going to be working in a new nickel corner next to Trent McDuffie, who's now playing outside on his own. You're losing L'Jarius Sneed. You might not have Justin Reed to start the year. It might be helpful to have somebody else that has some more NFL experience during, live games on this roster if somebody's going to miss some time. Now, if they're not, if everyone's going to come back healthy, I can understand why they would ride with their depth with the guys that have been here. But if you're even unsure which guys are going to be ready by week 1, there's a couple players out there right now on the free agent cornerbacks that could come in and play that you could get up to speed if you went ahead and got them in pretty early.
Yeah, and I think what's been like with this whole cornerback situation, you've seen a lot of players that I think the Chiefs have seen flashes of that they really like and that they wanted to see kind of, get an opportunity here, take a step. Like they've very clearly liked Nazeeh Johnson, like we got done talking about on Monday, and we know about the big 3 from the 2022 draft class, but when you start stacking up some of the things against them with the consistency with Joshua Williams, the injury issues with the Jalen Watson, and now Nazeeh Johnson, yes, precautionary, but hey, look, this is a left knee ACL injury that he's recovering from, and they're already pulling him off of practice. Like, it's at least worth paying attention to a little bit here. It makes you wonder, like, maybe just raise the floor a little bit of that cornerback room, maybe at the detriment of one of the other guys down the depth chart just a little bit. Maybe you're not getting as good of a look at a Kamal Haddon this year or a Keith Taylor, Nick Jones or Echo Boydo. But the payoff is, yeah, you might just get a little bit more consistency outside corner. Yeah, there's some veterans out there. Stephon Gilmore's been, asking anybody that, he seems like he's trying to find an opportunity on the roster. And I'm not saying he was particularly good last year either.
Stephon Gilmore was pretty solid last year, actually. He had a pretty good bounce back last year. Xavier Howard still available as of right now. Now he's been a lot more up and down, I think, than Gilmore lately, but he's available. Adoree Jackson was a solid player throughout his stint with the Giants. There's guys out there that could come in and I think that could play kind of. JC Jackson's available, but not really. No, he's available for a reason. I think those 3 guys, Xavier Howard, Adoree Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, you could bring in any one of those guys and they would probably immediately vault up to being this team's corner 2, on day 1. And I understand why the Chiefs wouldn't want to do that without an injury, because you bring in one of those guys, they're not coming in to be your corner 4. They're not coming in to be a corner. Maybe a corner 3 if they're getting those guaranteed snaps, but with the Chiefs setup, if they're beating out a Watson up just upon signing, or a Johnson or a Joshua Williams, if they're not beating all those guys just by signing, and they're entering a timeshare with Chamari Connor as as the third cornerback, their 5th defensive back off the bench or whatever, I don't know if they're signing up for it. So I can understand the hesitation. This is more of if the Chiefs think they might lose a Watson and or a Johnson for any significant time. And I understand Nazeeh Johnson, everybody says it's precautionary. He's going to be okay. I'm not saying he's missing time, but if they're going to miss one of those guys, they have starting caliber corners out there that are available, guys that I do think want to sign that aren't trying to get out of the NFL. It's just a matter of, do the Chiefs want to bring them in and give them that starting job when they have so many young guys? That's why it seems like it might be a little bit more predicated on a guy being injured.
And I think it's more just about where things sit with the secondary right now. When you think about Justin Reed's absence and Jalen Watson not being out there, and Nazeeh Johnson now precautionary. It's not that hey, on paper, this group's not going to be okay if they're at full strength, but just things are starting to happen already that you need at least to raise the red flag a little bit about, maybe we just try to stabilize this just a little bit, just to get things, in the right direction and just insulate ourselves just a little bit better in case things continue to trend the direction that they've started to trend already in this offseason. So I think that's the look that, I have on this. I will say, I don't, there's been some more Xavier Howard stuff this offseason, so I think I'm okay on that one. Stephon Gilmore, Adoree Jackson. Let's call him up. Yeah, and here's the thing: we've learned recently that the Chiefs were interested in Emmanuel Ogbah. So this is, the Chiefs have shown some willingness to try to add some veterans, to this roster late in the year. They were looking at Emmanuel Ogbah. Maybe they're, at least looking and considering doing the same at the cornerback position. They've at least shown some level of willingness to try to make some small tweaks to this, to this roster. And maybe, one of the cornerbacks that's out there available could wind up being one of those guys too.
Yeah. And like I said, I was wondering going into training camp why the Chiefs hadn't signed some, because there's talent out there now. And a lot of teams no team has signed these guys. That's why they're still available. But I was looking at the Chiefs specifically, having lost L'Jarius Sneed. You're like, I wonder if they're going to bring in a vet so they're not throwing out so many young guys. But then you start to think about it. All the guys that we're going to sit here and bang the table that we think that they should try to bring in. These are guys that aren't going to want to come in and compete for a job. They're not going to. Stephon Gilmore's not trying to come to a team where he can battle to be the corner 3 or 4. Right? He's coming in because he wants to play. He wants a chance to win another Super Bowl, but he wants to play. If you have Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams and Trent McDuffie all going to make the roster, they're all going to be competing for that job ahead of him. There's a chance you sign him and he's corner 5. And then what are you doing with that? He's not happy. You're not happy how much you're having to pay him to be there if he loses that battle out. Right? So I understand why they didn't maybe go out there and sign a veteran up to this point. But if you are losing Watson, if you are losing Justin Reed for a significant amount of time, I do think another veteran of the NFL, somebody that's been a smart player and a bunch of different systems. Like, again, Stephon Gilmore is one I want to come back to. I'm with you. Xavier Howard, he fits what the Chiefs do at cornerback. He really, really does. Long, tall, a lot of length, can run vertically, get physical at the line of scrimmage, but his injury history, some of his off-field-ish stuff, hit or miss with him. He might be falling off a hard cliff at this point in time, but Stephon Gilmore, I think, makes a lot of sense if you're missing some of that veteran leadership. It's just a matter of, do you want to bring him in above all of these young guys that have been competing and developing in your program if an injury isn't keeping them from getting to play?
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Hey, just a reminder, this week we announced that the KCSN golf tournament is happening, and it will be happening Saturday, September 7th. That is after the Chiefs go out on Thursday and beat the Baltimore Ravens. Hopefully Lamar doesn't have any oxtail pizza before that game, so he's actually able to play in it. But anyways, it's a 4-person scramble. It's the annual Tacos and Bourbon golf tournament. It's all proceeds going towards the KCSN Foundation. We have all kinds of great prizes, great gifts. One of the great gifts this year is everyone that plays in the tournament is getting a bottle of KCSN's Barrel Pick from Holiday Distillery. We picked a very good one. It is delicious. You're also getting Mission Taco. I believe there is also going to be some smoked meats out on the course as well. So you are going to have a tremendous time. Ask anyone that has come to this tournament. They will tell you how much fun it is. We always have a great time. But there is a link in the description if you want to register a 4-person team. Make sure that you do it quickly because you don't want to lose out on this opportunity. It is so much fun. It's out at Sunflower Hills. Should be great weather. Should be right after a Chiefs win. So, come hang out with us on September 7th. It is going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, Matthew, we're going to talk about your favorite player on the planet, Kadarius Toney, turning some heads, making some stories because he is being seen not just as a receiver these days, but he is being seen in the running back room, playing a little bit out of the backfield a little bit, trying to get, find a role for him, playing on the special teams in the return game a little bit. What do you think about the Chiefs trying this with Kadarius Toney?
Sure. Why not? Let's do it because the wide receiver thing isn't working out very well, right? It just hasn't worked. And this isn't just with the Chiefs. Like, you can go back to even this time at Florida where he did play predominantly wide receiver, but it was never wide receiver. It was a gadget player. It was a guy that you're just trying to find different ways to get into space. And that became the best way for that became at wide receiver and not running back. And that was the thought going to the NFL. And through preseason or a couple games with the Giants, you saw some flashes. With the Chiefs, there's been a play here or there that you saw the flashes. But from a week to week, a drive to drive situation, to just the consistency as a wide receiver, as a route runner, as somebody that pays attention to the details of the position, it's just never come to fruition for him in the NFL. So here's a guy that very clearly has like elite NFL athleticism, absolute top tier athleticism for the NFL. You put him on a football field and just watch him move around. He moves like the top 1% of all these guys that are already the top 1% of athletes in the world. It's just not transitioned to the actual game of football hardly at all. And a lot of people even want to go like, oh, but the special teams are so good to say. The guy's averages 7 yards per punt return. He's not even like a top half of the league punt returner year after year, right? Like he's not, all that athleticism that he has not translated to the football field. So yes, the Chiefs should do whatever they can to start working out a way to find him to use. They've been trying different types of wide receivers, using him in different ways. It's not clicked. Why not try him at running back this year? What is the harm in giving him a little bit of a chance at running back to see what happens?
I love this move and this decision for the Chiefs because it's removing him a little bit from core tenet of the offense. He's a big piece of this thing. We're going to really get him involved and we're going to, make him a key piece. Hey, look, not too far, like 14 months ago, Kadarius Toney was the wide receiver one reportedly on this team, or the Chiefs saw him as a wide receiver one. How things have changed where he's a fringe rosterable player now. But I love the fact that the Chiefs have moved away from him being a key cog in the future of this offense to, if it works, great. We have a package role for him. He's a package player. This is something that, we can sprinkle in a little bit here. We can maybe find some ways to get some impact out of him, but we're not relying on him to be such a key piece of this offense that if he goes down or if he's hurt, we're in a predicament. They've, definitely built that room up a bit different and better, that they're not really relying on him much at all, which I think is great. I think that puts some pressure off of him. They're trying to find ways to get him involved a little bit. Hey, the good news is the most vertical pass of his career in Kansas City actually came out of the backfield too, because he ran a little corner route from the slot in the backfield, right? So you've seen a few little plays from him where, he's done some slippery things as a runner. You've seen him run some routes out of the backfield and find some success there. Go back to that. I mean, don't rely on him. Don't give him the ball necessarily on a key third down late in the game against the Bills or something like that. You can take some pressure off of him, but still find a way to utilize some of his skill sets. I like giving it a go. I'm a little dubious on, what the outlook of this is when it's all said and done. I hope, he can find a way to contribute, but I do think it's definitely going to be in a very limited capacity now.
I mean, from the Chiefs standpoint, like beyond, I don't want to say like joking or anything like that. Like I don't think Kadarius Toney was going to make this team as a wide receiver. I think it's just clear cut. They have too many other guys that are more talented or have not been given the chances that they have failed on over and over again as a wide receiver. That I really think it was going to be an uphill battle for him to make this team as a wide receiver. They have like 3 guys that do everything he does, but better at wide receiver. So because he is, while a smaller wide receiver, he is not Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy small. He has got a lot more thickness to him than those guys. You want to put him in a position where he's going to handle more contact. You're going to take him away from the nuances of running routes. You're going to give him a much more limited route tree, although he's very dangerous on them because he still has this wide receiver background. You're going to give him a more limited route tree. When you do run the ball to Kadarius Toney, we're probably not calling a lot of inside zone where he's having to read it. We're not calling duo where he's having to read the holes, ID the mic, then make the mic wrong because he's unblocked. He's going to get stuff where he's running through a predetermined hole or predetermined space and letting his athleticism take over. And for the most part, theoretically, he should be good in those situations. I don't know if he's always been as good as, again, has athleticism says he should be in those spots, but theoretically, he should excel in that role. So I like it because you take pressure off him. You give the Chiefs, from a team building perspective, an ability to make a more complete wide receiver room. You're not relying on him. And if the running back thing doesn't work out, now there's like no pressure to, I think, put him on the team, like put him on the 53-man roster. You are now saying like, we are trying everything we can. We tried you as a wide receiver. We tried you as a gadget wide receiver / just return guy. Now you're being used entirely as a DeAnthony Thomas, Dexter McCluster type player. And if you can't make it here, like just, it's not going to work. We have gone down the list of things we can try and it hasn't worked. So I get it from both sides and I hope it works for him. The Chiefs have a desperate need as a receiving running back, say third down running back. If he can fulfill that role even a little bit, like I think it would go a long way to make them a more complete offense.
No pass protection though.
There's the thing. Probably not, right? He probably is not going to be good in pass protection, especially year one. However, I've seen Kadarius Toney tasked with going to hit a safety, and he's lit some safeties up before. So, like, he's not afraid of the contact if you can simplify it for him, right? Now, I don't think he's going to come out here and be Jerick McKinnon, chipping defensive ends, knocking them down, sifting across the formation, picking up a blitzer. However, I don't think he's adverse to contact either. I wouldn't be surprised if you could just like get the block one-on-one if he's not equivalent to an Isaiah Pacheco in pass protection. And Pacheco has been very poor in pass pro in the NFL, which is mind-boggling because that was something he was good at in college and something he takes a lot of pride in. But like he hasn't been particularly good at it in the NFL. Like I could see a path where Kadarius Toney is around that level because he's not afraid of that contact.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Nikko Remigio. Let's move on to that because last year there was a lot of buzz around him, even in the even in the early stages of OTAs, there was some buzz about Nikko Remigio and what he was doing as a returner. I'd heard really good things about him as well. Just like, I think he was trending towards making the team before some of these injuries and stuff that kind of hampered him because of the return ability, doing the little things correctly. Well, it sounds like he's continued to do that. He's continuing to do the little things. He's continuing to do the kind of stuff that endear yourself to coaches. And he's made some big plays recently as well in the passing game. Got to see that when me and Maddie weren't trying to break down the empty pass protection of the play that he eventually caught. We were watching a play of him making a nice little catch on a corner route. So he's doing some good things, catching balls from Patrick Mahomes, getting some of those opportunities. And it looks like, he's firmly in the mix of someone that could be, getting an opportunity to make this roster, Matthew.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, let's call it what it is. Nikko Remigio is not making this roster based on his ability to be the third slot wide receiver or whatever it's going to be, right? He's making the team because he is good enough or the best as a return man, whether that's punts, kicks, both, that also happens to have the versatility to fill in if you're missing a Xavier Worthy and you're missing a Justin Watson and you need to trot out a Nikko Remigio out there for a couple plays. He can come out and play wide receiver. He is going to make the team based on his ability as a returner. That said, he does, if you go back and watch, him in college, his play style, a lot of what he does, it's a lot in the same line of the things that the Chiefs and fans thought that they were getting out of Skyy Moore. A lot of the same stuff that fans want to see out of Kadarius Toney. He's not the same level as athlete, I don't think, as Kadarius Toney, but he's still a solid athlete. But it's like the same area of the field. You're using him a little bit shorter, a little bit underneath, getting the ball in his hands on the move, letting him create a little bit of yards after the catch. Yeah, you're going to have to protect him a little bit with some stacks and some switch releases. But like we've seen good ball skills from him going back to the preseason last year. We saw him go up and high point some balls. We saw him fight through some contested catches, take some contact. We even saw the sliding diving catch from training camp just earlier today that we're kind of the play that Kent was talking about. So that he is at least a competent, catcher of the football, a good receiver. And then if you can sprinkle in the return ability, like his path to making this team seems very, very clear. And we are now far enough removed from Skyy Moore being a second-round pick and Kadarius Toney being a player they traded a day 2 pick for, that it's now a little bit more of an even playing field. We've gotten far enough away from those guys having to make the team that it's now an actual competition. And I think he has a legitimate chance to outperform those guys as both a returner and a receiver this training camp. Oh, you pulled a Maddie and you were hard muted. Let's go.
I can't shake this cough, man. And so like I've been leaning on that mute button here a little bit the last
you shook that microphone real good
last month or so. But listen to Matt Nagy talk about this guy. Like he's the kind of player that people and he endears himself to them. And I think that goes a long way when you're looking at the bottom of the roster. If you're adding special teams value, if you're doing the little things, if you're if you're providing that kind of value, that can go a long way in helping giving yourself an opportunity to make a football team. You've kind of been on this train a little bit more recently, Matthew. Like I saw the tweets today.
Listen, I've been on this train for a year. If he didn't get hurt last year, I was ready for him to make the team last year, and I knew it was a long shot, right? And I was buying in like everybody else. Kadarius Toney, Skyy Moore, they get this next shot. So like I understood last year with the injury, especially, but even last year, if it doesn't work, I fully understand. This year, though, like I said, I think it's completely open for those three guys kind of competing for a spot. They all do a lot of the similar stuff. And so, yeah, I'm leading this Remigio revolution. We're getting him on this team. If there's no injury, we got the Nikko. I think from what we have seen or haven't seen, if we aren't accounting for Kadarius Toney as a running back, right? Like that is a little bit of a curveball to this conversation. But if we're just looking at them as returners and wide receivers, I don't know. I think I'm ready just to see Nikko over Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney because I know what those guys are. I feel very confident that we have kind of seen what Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney are in the NFL. I don't know what Nikko Remigio is in the NFL. I'm ready to take that because I don't think this team is missing anything without a Skyy Moore or a Kadarius Toney. And I've seen enough from Remigio to say, hey, there's a little bit of upside there. Maybe he's not ever going to be a wide receiver one, but if he gives us, 90% of what we thought Skyy Moore was going to be when they drafted him, that's a fantastic person to fill out your wide receiver depth chart with.
And boy, howdy, it does not look good for Skyy Moore right now. The clips coming out of camp don't look particularly great. And it's kind of disappointing. I'm not trying to get too far down this rabbit hole, but it is a little bit disappointing just to see like almost a regression from Skyy. It's weird to see like just the last couple of years there's maybe no growth, but also like more inconsistencies catching the football than we've seen even as a rookie. So I don't know. I'm just it's a bummer to see that
thinking a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely like it feels mental at this point with him for sure. Like last year felt mental, this year feels mental too. Like that's just what it feels like, and Nikko Remigio's the benefactor right now.
Yeah. Well, and so it works, I think, like multiple ways here, right? Like, so if you go back to Skyy Moore's rookie year, he came in and like when he played as a rookie, he actually flashed some ability. Like you could clearly see where he was going to be. You saw some flashes, but it really seemed like they crushed his confidence, making him be a punt returner. He loses the couple balls there in Indianapolis in the sun, and you just never know how much that affected him as a rookie. Like, yeah, he came back later in the year and made a couple places a wide receiver, but like, I think that you kind of hurt. I think they even talked about it. Andy or Tober, somebody talked about it throughout the year that like, yeah, you just got to get that confidence in there because, they had some miscues with the punt returning. And so it just seems like he's never recovered from that. And that was what my thought was this whole time. But now even just watching kind of training camp now and going back and watching stuff, he just seems like he's always thinking. He seems like he's always having to think about what he's doing. Where am I breaking? What am I supposed to be doing here? And I do think it takes a guy that had excellent hands in college. You watch combine workouts. You watch him at Western Michigan. They're like, his hands were fantastic. The ball just launched into him and stuck there and they never even moved. You watch him in the NFL and he's tipping passes. He's mistiming jumps. He's reaching out, short arming stuff. Like it's just never been the same. And I think it's because he's always thinking. And I just comes back to, I wonder, is just the Chiefs style of offense not for him? He came out of an air raid. You come out of an air raid offense where people see the spread and they see what it looks like. And I think everybody assumes it's real loose, and air raid offense isn't loose. It's very technical. It's very detailed. It just is a lot of space. And so you take them out of that, but it's very detailed. It's very, you are going here to here. This is what's happening. And I don't think that's the Chiefs offense. And I really wonder if that jump, along with the punt return learning in that rookie year, just really made it difficult for him mentally. And he just needs a complete reset in another system.
I think he's a guy that needs a change of scenery. I do. And I was joking. Someone let him go catch, glance RPOs from Anthony Richardson. Like just something simple, because like that was something that he was really good at in college, right? Like that was one of the things is watching him tough catching the ball over the middle of the field on slants. And they ran, a lot of those RPO slant glances, and he'd catch the ball comfortably, confidently, run through defenses, and really look good with the ball in his hands getting down the hill. It just doesn't seem like it's going to work here in Kansas City. I don't think he is a great fit mentally for how this team likes to do things, and it has shown up consistently. And I mean, the end of his rookie contract's next season, so it's not like he's not a spring chicken. He doesn't, the time's running out. Like I think they make the decision here in the next 30 days if they haven't already. And he seems like a guy that you could, maybe do some kind of trade for a fringe defensive end, maybe rosterable 53-man type player / practice squad type. Like that's kind of the value of a Skyy Moore, I think, right now. I don't think you'd be able to get much more out of that. But I think Nikko Remigio is the benefactor. I think Nikko Remigio is the guy that really could wind up on this roster now. I'm starting to buy it a little bit more.
And I saw back in the chat a little bit. I'm trying to see. Okay, we saw it here. From Nate Dogg, it might be more accurate to say pick one, McColl or Remigio. And like, it's a possibility. It comes down to those two, but I think they do slightly different things. Like I think in the Chiefs' mind, McCole Hardman fills a couple different roles. Yes, he does some of the gadgety stuff, but I think they still believe that he is a guy that they can send deep. They still believe they can use him on these downfield vertical routes, a la what we saw Xavier Worthy run that first day that was lighting it up all of social media, or even how they used him in the Miami game last year in the playoffs, that wild card round. I don't know if that's like Remigio's bread and butter. So like I could see them kind of having those two guys in different buckets. Maybe it still comes down to both of them, right? But just I see Remigio's actual play style as a receiver overlapping a little bit more with the Toney, with the Skyy Moore. I think there's room on the depth chart for both of those, for McCole Hardman and Remigio, without too much crossover.
I agree. I think McColl's making the roster, and
Yep.
I think we kind of all know why McColl was here and why they signed him.
I saw this, and this was funny. If Watson is the more serious side, I would enjoy them bringing in somebody like Hakeem Butler. Hakeem Butler, I think, just won another league MVP for like the UFL or USFL. He is the best football player that isn't good enough to be in the NFL in the entire world. I'm pretty sure he wins MVP of every non-NFL football league, gets a tryout spot, and doesn't make it. Like, he is the best football player that can't make it to the NFL. And it's so sad for a guy that clearly so talented. There's just something that doesn't quite work. And yes, he is. Mingo, he is working out or signing with the Bengals, the Fraudgles. That is something they are in fact doing. But I just thought it was funny. Like, every single a non-NFL football league, he is the MVP for. Before you're gonna try to wrap us out of here, so I'm gonna keep the mic. I'm keeping the rock. I'm not passing. We're isoing. We're Ant Edwards.
Okay,
we're Ant Edwards in here in the Olympics. What are you looking forward to seeing over the weekend when pads come on? Pads haven't been on yet, so that makes it hard to judge trench play. It makes it hard, I think, to really get an idea of who's super physical, how press coverage and stuff on the outside is going. It's like there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about for training camp, but there's a lot of meat left on the bone. What are some of the what's something that you're most looking forward to seeing once pads come on?
There's a lot of meat on the bones of the people I'm about to talk about, Matthew. I mean, it's back to the trench play, like, the rotations on the offensive line to see who's continuing to get those opportunities as the pads come on and things get a little bit more real. Like, I think that's something worth paying attention to, is like, okay, it's getting closer to go time. Who's going to be starting with the ones? Who's getting those reps? How do they look physically? And then it's Felix. I mean, Felix is a big one for me, because, hey, we're talking about physicality. This is your chance to show physicality. Steve Spagnuolo wants physicality out of you, Felix. If he doesn't see it, we got problems. So I think, that's pretty important there as well. So, I mean, it's tying back to a lot of what we talked about on Monday, but I mean, they're big. They are big storylines for this team's outlooks. More so at the tackle position, just because everything else looks pretty good. Also would like to see if Xavier Worthy comes back out of the strap. If he comes back out of this trip, he looks so good on Sunday too, man. I wish
him and Joe were just hanging out somewhere, just hanging out in New Hampshire, wherever it is, just chilling,
chilling.
Yeah, I mean, it would be sure nice to see Xavier Worthy back out there, especially when pads come on, and be like, hey, is there any now? Not rust from missing these few days, but was it you looked really good day one? And I believe that it was said that, like, hey, it was nice to have Xavier Worthy out there because the Chiefs safeties had to get used to that kind of speed. And I think I said it in one of our DM groups. One of my biggest takeaways was, boy, these Chiefs defensive backs aren't ready for the speed of Worthy and Hollywood Brown right now. Like, they seem to be taking really bad angles. They're not getting over the top of any of these corner routes. Like, they just aren't ready for that kind of speed, right? And so that could be just need more time, or they could just be that fast. But that was very clear. And I just wonder, with a little bit more practice, now that pads come on, is he going to look as good as he did day one? Or is there going to be some regression where now he's having to adjust to the physicality? He's having to adjust to what they're doing to him and not him just being able to outrun them. So I think that's a big one. But I mean, we've talked, 2 shows now, and we kind of talked about tackle, but like it's really hard to figure out what's going on along the offensive line without pads on. They can't really do much. I will say this: I haven't been overly impressed with what I've seen from Wanya Morris's reps. Like when you go through and see these plays, like there seems to be a lot of plays where somebody's getting to his edge relatively easily. There seems to be a lot of plays where they're calling a lot of sprint outs to his side, and it seems like they kind of, I don't want to say to protect him, and that's made some of the great Mahomes plays, but there's been a lot of sprint outs, which is fine. The Chiefs have that in their offense, but you just look at some of the plays and a lot of guys are getting on his edge. I don't know if I love his feet. His feet still to me look not offensive tackle-ish. He's a big guy, takes long strides, so he covers ground, but they still look kind of heavy. I want to be more impressed with him because he seems to be getting the majority of the first team reps at left tackle. So if that's the route they're going to trend, if you're not going to see Kingsley Suamataia start to take those reps, I want to see him look better. I want to see that footwork improve. I want to see him protect his outside shoulder more, because this play you were talking, the Remigio catch, we were wondering about what the protection was, but even when Wanya Morris does get out wide to start trying to block at the end, Mike Dana's already on his edge, and all Dana does is throw a cross chop in, and it's just over. Wanya Morris had no chance to recover. He had no chance to run his feet, run his hips underneath it. Like, it was bad. So when a guy gets to his edge, does he have the ability to recover, or is it like last year where he's still kind of struggling, having to reach and lunge at that point? So, like, I really do want to see what he has out there.
Before we get out of here, Tucker, I have a question for you, sir.
Ooh.
So the second I hang up from this show, I'm on vacation and I am going to Buc-ee's tomorrow. What do I need to get at Buc-ee's?
Oh, Lord. Beaver nuggets. Are you wait. Are you driving?
I am driving.
Okay. Beaver nuggets.
Where are you driving to?
We are driving down to Branson. We're stopping at the Springfield Buc-ee's.
Okay, gotcha. So, like, are you having like a meal? Is the question?
Yes, we are going to Billy Gale's right afterwards. So I can't get the brisket sandwich. Get the
3-meat sandwich. See, you're already starting off on the wrong foot.
The 3-meat sandwich is the absolute best way to go there. Truthfully, look, people will say take the brisket sandwich, and which is true. That is good. But you got to get the 3-meat, though. And it's huge. It's a massive sandwich. It's really good.
What are the 3 meats?
Brisket, pulled pork, and
turkey, I think.
Yeah, I think it's turkey.
Okay. Well, I'm not getting that. So tell me what else I should get.
Okay, awesome. Beaver nuggets for sure. The jerky is really good. I like the there's like a sweet and spicy jerky that they have. I think is really good. It's not too spicy. They also have a jalapeno jerky that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that says Buc-ee's on it or has the beaver on it, you need to get it.
But you need to carve out like an hour and a half if you haven't been there before. It's a really big store. There's a lot of stuff to look at.
So
you've been to a Buc-ee's, right?
I have been to a Buc-ee's.
Okay.
I have gotten some jalapeno cheddar beaver nuggets, but it was more of a quick turnaround. We are going to spend a little bit more time here. Good. I know Tucker is a much more seasoned vet when it comes to Buc-ee's, and Maddie, I think you might be a little bit more too, because you did go there the other day. And
I go there anytime I drive down, which, like, I have family that lives in South Carolina, so anytime we're coming back home from South Carolina, I take the detour through Florence, hit the Buc-ee's up. Tried to make that mistake on Black Friday. Whoo, that was a decision. Be prepared when you walk in. They have like the front area before you actually go in the store. They always have like the random seasonal stuff there. There's something for you in that section. Like in the front of like right when you walk in, there's something for you, whether it's a Buc-ee's cooler that's a great price, whether it's the biggest, most giant pool noodle you've ever seen. There is a fire pit. You know, they might have a car. They might have a car. There's going to be something for you in that front room at Buc-ee's.
Cornhole.
So one thing I do know I'm getting
live beavers.
We are all getting matching Buc-ee's swim trunks.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
So that's
the only Speedos.
That's the only. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm in. Say less. I'm gonna buy one for Craig too. That's gonna do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
What if they have Halloween costumes? What if there's a Buc-ee's Halloween costume and you could dress up as Buc-ee?
I'm in.